Hello and welcome to the analysis of the Hindu newspaper dated December 1st, 2022. In this video, we are going to talk about two important newspaper articles. Now, these articles have been taken from the Hindu newspaper dated December 1st, 2022, and they are going to be very important, very significant for the civil services examination. Now, this doesn't discard the fact that the Hindu newspaper did not have any other articles important for the civil services examination apart from these two articles. So, here we have prepared the list of all important newspaper articles important for the civil services examination. Now, all the other articles do not require that kind of an understanding, and that is why we have separated them. We have not discussed them. Now these articles PDF is also available on the Telegram channel, so you can join us on Telegram as well. We are available there. We provide all kind of different PDFs which are important for the civil services examination. And you can also consider subscribing to this channel because we put a lot of awesome videos which explain the Hindu on a daily basis. If this is very clear to you, let's head to the first important newspaper article. Now, this particular newspaper article particularly talks about the economy section. Now, it talks about the fact that GDP growth has dipped to 6.3%. And this is happening because of the manufacturing plus mining, says this particular newspaper article. So, let's talk about this article further. Now, manufacturing and mining output contracted year on year in the July-September quarter, which dragged the gross value added growth to a slower than expected 5.6%. This led to this combined with high inflation and weak exports also led to the slow overall gross domestic product, which dipped to basically 6.3%. And this is as per the estimates released by the National Statistical Office. Now you need to note that National Statistical Office is responsible for putting out all of these data on a quarterly basis, right? So now this particular statement is very baffling, which is very hard. It is very hard to understand, and that is why I have broken down this particular statement into a flow chart. Now this flow chart says that manufacturing plus mining, there was a contraction in the output from the manufacturing and mining sector. Now this led to decrease in the gross value added, which is up to 5.6%. Now if you combine this decrease in the gross value added with high inflation plus weak exports, then it leads to what is known as slow GDP growth of 6.3%. Now this statement makes us understand all of what is written in this particular newspaper article. Any data apart from it is not very significant. Alright, so now what's important to understand in this particular article is the terms regarding the economy, right? First one is the gross value added, then we have the inflation, then we have the gross domestic product. Now we are going to understand all of these terms in detail. So the first term we have is the gross value added. Now gross value added is basically the measure of all the contributions from different entities within a country, right? Now these contributions can be from corporate, subsidiary, company or municipality. Now this particular term, that is gross value added, is an economic productivity metric, which means that it measures the productivity of the country, whether the country is highly productive or not. Any decrease in it is going to show that the economy is not very strong. Now we have the gross value added. We know what gross value added is. Now let's understand in the simple mathematical terms. Now the gross value added is measured as output of the country minus intermediate consumption. Now here intermediate consumption is basically the gross output minus the net output, right? So the output of the country minus the intermediate consumption, the consumption which is happening in the middle stages of the economy, that is going to be separated out. All the output which is generated in the intermediate, which can be separated out, is not included. And when the intermediate consumption is not included, is not excluded from the output of the country, then it means that it is the gross value added. Now that you have understood the gross value added, let's now understand what is known as gross domestic product. Now basically gross domestic product is the total monetary or market value of all the finished goods and services produced within a country's borders in a specific time period. In a specific time period, all the finished goods and products are going to be are going to be calculated, all the value of these goods and services is going to be calculated, and that is going to amount to what is known as gross domestic product. All right. If we talk about it in mathematical terms, then GDP is equal to C plus G plus I plus NX. Now this is a very simplified version. There are other methods to calculate the GDP as well, but here we are considering the expenditure method, right? So now the C here amounts to the consumption. Then we have the G, which is known as government spending, and the third is the I, which is known as investment. Investment means investment from anybody, right? Private investment, government investment, whatever it is, basically the investment, right? You get it. And the other thing which is going to be added is the NX, which is known as net exports. Now net exports are exports minus imports. When you add up all of these terms, that is C plus G plus I plus NX, then you are going to get the numbers of the GDP. All right. So now that you have understood the GDP, that is the gross domestic product, let's understand the third term which we are going to discuss. So the third term is the inflation. Now inflation is basically the rise in the general price level. Now what is general price level? All the commodities added up in order to all the products in the basket are going to be known as the general price level, are going to amount to the general price level. So now this particular inflation can be translated as the decline of purchasing power over the time. Now, if there is an increase in the inflation, if there is high inflation, then you are going to have less purchasing power over the particular period of time. And it also means that inflation, a high inflation means a unit of currency effectively buys less than it did in the prior periods. The value of that particular currency is going to lower down, right? Because you are going to buy the same amount of products which you used to buy a year ago. Now you have to pay more money for it. For example, the price of the potato says is it is 10 rupees per kg. Then in the next year, if you have to pay 15 rupees for that 1 kg of potato, then you are going to say that there is inflation, right? Now inflation is very important to us, because inflation means high increase in the inflation means, or a considerable or moderate amount of inflation means that the growth is happening, GDP is increasing. But what's not important for us is the fact that there is high inflation. We do not want high inflation over a period of time. That is important to us. Now there's also a different term called the deflation. Now deflation is basically the contrast of this inflation, other side of the coin, right? So which now deflation occurs when price decline and purchasing power increases. Now you do not want this kind of deflation situation also, because no doubt your purchasing power is increasing, but it also means that your power, your GDP is not growing at that level. So inflation is good, but high inflation is bad for the economy. So this is it regarding this particular newspaper article. We have talked about these three articles. We have also understood the situation right now, which means that manufacturing, there is a contraction in the output, in the output of manufacturing and mining. This has led to decrease in the gross value added. Now with the addition of high inflation and weak exports to it, we are experiencing a slowdown in the GDP growth, which is standing at 6.3% right now. So this is it regarding this particular newspaper article. Let's now head to the next important newspaper article. Now this particular newspaper article is very sensitive, and we will not get into the controversies regarding it. We will just get into what is happening on at this point of time. We are also going to understand what is this case about. All right. So let's talk about this article. Now CJI DY Chandrachud on Wednesday agreed to look into listing of 2 petitions filed by Bilkis Bano, who was gang raped and whose 7 family members were murdered during 2002 Gujarat riots, against the Gujarat government's decision to prematurely release 11 convicts serving life sentence in the case. Now the Supreme Court in 2022, in May 2022, decided to hand over the case of this particular 11 convicts to decide whether they are going to get prematurely released or not. Now they handed over it. So the Gujarat government decided that it is going to prematurely release the 11 convicts. This is what you need to know. Now these 11 convicts were serving life sentences. And why they were serving the life sentences? Because they murdered the family members of Bilkis Bano in the 2002 Gujarat riots. They raped her also, they gang raped her also. And that is what is the context of this particular newspaper article. Now these are the exact terms. Now let's talk about what was this particular case. Now Bilkis Bano is a gang rape. Now who exactly is this Bilkis Bano? Bilkis Bano is a gang rape survivor of 2002 riots in Gujarat. Now rioters brutally attacked Bilkis and her family, raped the women and killed many of them. Now the Bilkis survived this and she was in a very highly unconscious state. Now her case was taken up by the NHRC, that is National Human Rights Commission, and Supreme Court, and later the Supreme Court transferred the investigation to the CBI and the case to Mumbai to facilitate a free and fair trial, because it was observed that the government there in Gujarat can interfere in this particular case. Now the 11 men were convicted by the trial court and sentenced to life, and the Bombay High Court confirmed their life terms in 2017. Now imagine, from 2002 the justice was served in 2017, right? We say that the justice delayed is justice denied, right? But it happened in this case, and now this particular case is happening on again. Now imagine the kind of trauma that Bilkis must be going on, that she must be having right now, because her family was killed and she was brutally gang raped. Now you can understand the situation. Now in 2019 what happened is the Supreme Court awarded compensation of rupees 50 lakhs to Bilkis because she was going through all of these matters, right? Now the first such order in a case related to the 2002. This is the first time that 2002 Gujarat riots, in all of these, compensation was awarded, right? Now let's understand what's happening right now, because we have understood what happened in the past, what has happened in 2017, what happened in 2002, what happened in 2019. Let's now talk about what is happening right now. So making an oral mentioning before the CJI's bench, advocate Shobha Gupta for Ms. Bano said her client had filed a review petition against a Supreme Court decision in May 2022 to allow the Gujarat government to consider the plea for early release of convicts under the state's premature release policy of 1992. Now, what's important to understand is the state's premature release policy of 1992. Now, it says that you can allow some of the convicts in order to get out, to get released. All right. So now in May 2022, what happened is that Supreme Court said that Gujarat government can consider, it can consider the plea for the early release of the convicts. And who filed for this plea? We'll talk about it later. But Ms. Gupta said the remission policy of the state of Maharashtra, where the trial happened, and not that of Gujarat, would have governed the case. Now the trial happened in what? Maharashtra. The decision was passed in the Bombay High Court, right? So the advocate of Ms. Banu says that it should happen according to the Maharashtra, or the remission policy. It should happen according to the remission policy of the Maharashtra. Now the Supreme Court in May 2022 held that remission would be considered as per the policy which was in vogue at the time of conviction, which was said by the Supreme Court. Now the court's judgment had come on a plea filed by one of the 11 convicts, who is known as Radhe Shyam Bhagwan Das Shah. Now he shouldn't be named Gadhe Shyam, right? But his name is Radhe Shyam Bhagwan Das Shah. Now the court had even directed Gujarat to consider the application of the Shah within 2 months. Now Ms. Bano has challenged the release in a separate writ petition, and she has argued that the release affected her fundamental right to life. Now this is what is happening right now. We do not know what is going to happen, but we hope that justice is served to Ms. Bano. and these kind of convicts are not released. Now this is a very emotional statement, but this should happen, right? We all feel for her. So this is it regarding this particular newspaper article, and this is it for the day. Thank you from my side. Do like and share the video and subscribe to this channel. Have a good day. Bye.